Hello, hello everybody. My name's Rosie. Lovely to see you all. I hope you're all feeling very festive. I'm starting to feel festive. I'm not quite there yet because I've got so much to do. I'm sure everyone has got lots to do. But today we're going to do some decorated baubles. And the reason I want to do these is because they are really easy. And I think they look fantastic and I think they make really good gifts. So I think they're quite affordable as well in terms of how much the actual baubles cost. Yes, they're really exciting, really good fun. And in fact, I very stupidly, because I make these to sell as well, you know, I make these professionally, I thought, oh, I'll have one ready to show you. I'll have an example. And I don't have any because I've sent them all to shops. So I don't even have an example to show you how good it's going to look. So you're going to have to stick with me to see the end product. I suppose that's a really cheeky way of making you watch the whole thing, right? Because all I've got are these plain ones. So first of all, I'll talk a bit about the bauble and what's best to use. And then I'll talk about how we're going to decorate it. And then I guess we'll decorate it. Hey, sounds good? So the first thing that you need is a bauble, obviously, that's clear. But I just wanted to talk to you about different types that you can get because there are so many out there and there are so many different types of baubles that are geared towards creating your own thing on, right? So this particular one, so there's loads of different types and this is called a mache bauble. So mache is in like paper mache, M-A-C-H-E. Now, I think it's called a mache bauble because it's got this like paper on it. And I think it's a, I believe it's like a polystyrene ball that's then been covered in like the sort of like light paper. And then it's got quite a smooth edge, but you can kind of see the grooves where the paper's been sort of stuck down. And what that means is that it's super light. And it's very easy to draw on, it's very easy to paint on, it's a lovely smooth surface, and if you drop it, it's not going to break. I've left the tag on this so that you can see that this one was from Hobbycraft, and they are £1 each. And I believe they're like, in fact, shall we have a look? Because you can get different sizes. So just to be sure, let's have a look. I think it's something like 7 centimeters diameter. Yeah, there you go. So it's 7 centimeters in diameter. You can get different sizes. But the reason that I'm telling you the size is because I've been caught out before where I have bought baubles thinking that they're going to be this size, and then they come and they're teeny tiny. So 7 centimeters diameter is a really good size. You can buy a lot of ceramic baubles that are plain. They're usually white ceramic and they come with the ribbon on. They're fine to draw on as well. But bear in mind they're quite porous, so when you're painting on them you might need to do more layers. They're quite like chalky because they're made out of ceramic, so they're kind of powdery, and they often are much smaller than these ones. So just bear that in mind. If you can get hold of a mache one quite cheaply, you can get them from Hobbycraft, places like the Works, your general craft shops. But I think at £1 each, and for how easy it is to decorate them, you could give these as gifts quite easily. I think you'd be saving quite a bit of money, I reckon, because you can get them as cheap as normal baubles, right? Why not? And also bear in mind this is a great thing for kids to do as well. So something I did with my little girl last year is I just got her to scribble on one, and she scribbled all around it with all the different pens, and it looked great. So even just getting a kid to scribble on one looks wonderful. So you could do that. Done. So that's your mache bauble. That's what we're going to be using today. We're going to paint them first of all. So we're going to paint them a really bright colour. If you've done one of my classes before, you'll know that I've spoken about acrylic paint quite a lot. So you can use acrylic paint. You could use like tester pots from like Dulux tester pots. If you don't have access to acrylic paint, then emulsion that you'd use on walls works really well. So if you've got any nice bright colours that you paint your walls with and you've got some left over in the garage, they're really good. They work in the same way. You can sometimes go to B&Q and get tester pots on sale, like they're trying to get rid of them for like 20p. If you ever go into B&Q and they've got 20p tester pots, get as many as you can, because they're great for this sort of thing. So cheap, and they work like a really good acrylic. So the main thing is that we want a really nice bright colour. We want it to be quite pigmented, so we don't want to see the brown coming through, because we're going to be drawing over the top of it. So with that in mind, I'm just going to exit stage left, I think, to my radiator. Here we go. I was just hanging these by the radiator so that they would dry. So I've got myself a little metal tree here that I hang mine on. You don't need one of these. I use these for markets. But I have painted a few baubles already so that we can start decorating them. So I've got a nice bright pink there, and you can see there's no brown coming through. It's nice and strong. You don't want to use poster paints. Poster paints are not going to work very well for this, because you want full coverage, and you want it to stick, and you want it to stay. So we've got a nice pink one here. We've got a nice green one here. And then we've got a very light sort of bluey purple here. And this one I'm going to save for an option later on, which I'll tell you about in a bit. So I'm just going to move my tree out of the way. And I'm going to pop them over there while they're drying. Please don't roll off the table. I'm going to put it back on the radiator so it doesn't roll off the table. There we go. That's the only thing with decorating baubles. It can get quite messy because they do like to roll. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to paint this. And then once I've painted this, I'm going to talk to you about patterns. Did any of you do my wrapping paper session a few months back? If you did my wrapping paper session, then some of this is going to be quite similar, because we're going to apply the same patterns to the bauble, but it works really, really well. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to paint this one, and I'm going to do it in this lovely purple. So again, a nice strong colour, and then we're going to use nice contrasting colours to decorate over the top. Now, this is a fancy acrylic. This is a Liquitex one, but you don't have to use a fancy one. So this one, for example, I've used on the lighter blue one, and that was, I think that was like less than £2 from the range. So you can get really cheap acrylics that will work. You just might have to do more than one layer to get that strong colour, so that you don't see any of that brown coming through. And I'm going to get myself a nice flat brush. You can use any paintbrush really, it doesn't matter. You just want nice coverage on your bauble. And the best thing for you to do at this point, you're going to get messy fingers, let's accept that. But I would say at this point, when you're holding your bauble, get your thumb and maybe your middle finger. So you've just got those 2 points that are not covering the bauble. And then you're going to stick your index finger in the string to hold it away from the paint. That way you're not going to get the string touching the paint and making it all messy and ruining your lovely paint strokes. So I'm going to paint this fairly quickly, because I think this bit is fairly self-explanatory. You just want to make sure, I just want you to see me do it so you know that there's nothing fancy going on. I'm just covering it as much as I can. And also you can kind of see which order I do it in. So I sort of start from the top, and because I've got my finger in the string there, it's pulling it away from the paint so nothing's getting wet. And I'm not being super careful. The only thing I'm being careful about really is not leaving too thick a brush stroke so that it dries quicker. So it's nice and flat, but at the same time, you're not seeing any of the brown show through. But this will depend on the sort of paint that you use. Like I say, if you use a good acrylic, then this will do one layer. So this one, I'm not going to have to do any more painting after this. I can just let it dry. But if you use a cheaper acrylic, it will maybe be 2 or 3 layers. That's not a problem. You just need to factor that into your time. And your time is precious at this time of year, because we've all got so much to do and so much to think about. But I'm hoping that by giving this a go, it's a nice sort of mindful task for you that feels nice. It's like not too difficult. You don't need much skill to do it, but it's enjoyable. And the outcome is something that you can actually give as a gift if you want. So if you're struggling to find a gift for someone, you could give this to anyone, couldn't you? It's going to look great. So at this point you can see I'm getting to those edges where my fingers are, and this is the trickiest bit really. I mean, I just accept that I'm going to get messy fingers, right? So I sort of like do this, and then I'll hold the top and then sort of paint those last bits. And the great thing is, if you do sort of get it a bit messy and you get some fingerprints on it, then you can just go over those bits when they're dry. You just want as much full coverage now as you can, so you can let that dry. There we go. And if there's any finger marks that I can see that I can get while it's hanging, then I will do that. But that's looking good to me. So that's that really. That's that done, finished. So now I'm going to hang it on my tree over here. Hopefully this pink one's dry enough for me to put down. I think it is. Yeah, we're all good. So that's the messy bit done. Unless we use glitter, and we might try a bit of glitter later on. But that's the messiest bit. You don't have to use glitter. I don't tend to use glitter, but it's a nice option if we so wish. So I'm going to move those over there. And I'm going to, as you can see, I've got very messy fingers already. I'm not a very tidy worker, as all of you might have noticed if you've seen any of my other sessions. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the patterns, which is the really fun bit. So what I've got here, and I recommend all of you do this, if you did my wrapping paper session, as I've said, you might remember what we did before, and we're going to do the same thing again. But what I've got here is I've just got a plain piece of white paper, and I've got a black Sharpie. I'm just going to move all these pens out of the way. We'll talk about those in a minute. I've got myself a black Sharpie. Now, you don't have to do this with a black Sharpie if you don't want. This is just so that you can see on the camera exactly what I'm doing. And we're going to draw a series of patterns that work in lines. So they're all sort of landscape lines, but they're all different patterns. And then we're essentially going to recreate those patterns onto the bauble. And the reason I get you to draw it out is just to remind you which ones there are, so that you don't get lost along the way. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to do some leaves. And the reason we're going to do the leaves first is because I always like to do that around the centre of the bauble to give us a nice straight line to work from. That's the easiest way to do it, I think. So all we're going to do is we're going to draw a line across the piece of paper like this, and then we're going to do a series of leaves all the way along. Now, your leaves can be, you can turn the paper at this point if that makes it easier, and your leaves can be as big or as small as you want. They can be rounded at the edge, or they can be pointy. However you feel comfortable is how we're going to do it, as long as it's one line with a bunch of leaves going along either side. And as you can see, I've managed to get a lovely big blob of paint on my paper as well. That's good, isn't it? Christmas is always messy, isn't it? Especially when you start doing Christmas crafts. Okay, so they're your leaves, and that's how they're going to sit on the bauble. And then there's a few other ones we can do. So they're really, really simple. So don't feel like this is not scary. They're super, super simple. We're just putting them down on paper so that we remember how many we have, so that when we're doing the bauble, we don't have to get too worried about it. So really simple. So we can have a zigzag. Zigzag, super simple. The other thing that you can do is you can maybe decide on an order in which you want to do these, and you can stick to that order. Or like me, you can just wing it every time and do it in whichever order you want, depending on the colours, depending on how you're feeling. There's so many different ways to do it. So we've got zigzags, then we've got the loops. The loops I really like, they're fun. And they don't need to be complicated, because if they're complicated, then it's going to get super difficult to put them on something that's spherical. So we've got zigzags, leaves and loops. Then you've got simple things like little arrows I quite like. And I think really the main thing about these patterns is that you want a combination of lines and then sort of standalone images, if that makes sense. It just breaks it up quite nicely. And also some that are big and some that are small. So like the leaves are quite big and the arrows are quite small. Then you've got your standard dots. You obviously want some dots in there. They're really easy. And we're going to put them on there just so we remember. and then you might just do some actual lines. But what I like to do with the lines is have two together. I think that sort of breaks things up nicely. So if we put that underneath the zigzag, so we've got two lines in a row, like so. What else? We can do hearts. Easy peasy, all the way along. Over that lovely paint splodge. What else have we got? You could do, instead of just dots, you could do actual circles. And really, this is all you need. You don't need any more than this. If you can think of any more, you could do other ones. So we've got circles all the way along there. We could do little stars, like these sort of stars. And you might be thinking these are super simple, but once they're on a bauble, they're going to really stand out. And also we can use lots of colours as well if we want to. Lovely. So I think that will do. We don't need more than 5 really, if you don't want more than 5. So I'm just going to show you this close up so that you can see. So the leaves is the main one because that's what we're going to start with. Then we've got the swirly swirls, we've got the zigzags, the arrows, the dots, the hearts, the circles, the stars and the lines. And that's just a reference point for us to remind us what different patterns there are so we don't get worried when we're doing our baubles. And that's it, simple as that. So that's your patterns. We've painted our baubles. I think we're ready to go. So I'm going to leave this, try and leave this over here. Yeah, that'll be okay there. And I'm going to bring in this pink guy here because I think purple's definitely still drying. Green's still got some splodgy bits. But we'll start with the pink one, and then I'm going to show you an adaptation that we can do if we don't have access to these sorts of pens. So I'm going to bring these back into shot. So these are Posca pens. So I'm going to talk to you about Posca pens for a second. I've spoke about them so many times. So Posca pens are basically like they're called chalk pens, also known as paint pens, and essentially they're like marker pens that have like pigment and water inside, and they will write on anything. So the idea is you could write on glass, metal, whatever, and it's permanent. The reason these pens are so good is because they act in the same way that paint does, and that it's got a very strong pigment, and it will show up on the top of other things, if that makes sense. So for example, if you had a piece of black card and you wanted to write on it with something that was white, you wouldn't be able to do that with a normal felt tip pen or a Sharpie because it wouldn't show up. Whereas if you got a white one of these, this would show up on black because it's so strongly pigmented. So they're really amazing for loads of different things. You can get them from a lot of places, but I would bear in mind that they are quite pricey. You can get other versions that aren't Posca. You would just type into your Google search something like paint pen or chalk pen, and there are loads of different brands that do the same sort of thing, and you can get cheaper versions that still work really well. You could get yourself like maybe 4 of your favorite colors and just stick with those. I've got tons of them because I use them all the time and I use them for various different projects, but they're pricey. You're talking maybe £3 for one that's this size, and then if you were to get a set of maybe 12, you're talking sort of like £15 to £20. But they last forever. I've had mine for maybe 3 years and they're still going. They're amazing. I've let children use mine and they're still working. They're really, really strong and hardy, and they last ages. So they're definitely worth it if you're the sort of person that's trying out this sort of thing a lot. But I don't want people to think that they have to go out and spend loads of money on pens just to decorate a bauble. So once I've done this, I'm going to show you an alternative where all you need is just a black marker pen. So let's start with the Posca pens. What I would say at this point is that if you don't want to buy these sort of pens and you do want to still use lots of colours, I'll just refer to my radiator bauble. This one that we painted before, we've painted it in a very light colour. We've painted it in it's nearly white. It's a very light bluey purple. And you'll probably find that most Sharpies, whether they're different colours or not, will still work on this. You just maybe want to stay away from your lighter colours, so like your yellows, your very light sort of pastel colours. But if you're using strong colours like reds and pinks and purples and dark blues, then the same rules will apply on this. So you can do different colours. There's definitely a way around it, and you can just try it out. But you need it to be a marker pen. If you do it with just normal felt tip pens, it's probably not going to stay. They might rub off quite easily. They might run. So you want something that's strong and supposed to be permanent. That's all I would say. So I'm just going to move that to one side. The next thing to do is the fun bit. We get to choose what colours we want to use. So with this pink one, you want lots of nice contrasting colours. I'm going to go with a yellow, and we'll definitely have a blue, and we'll have a purple. Which purple shall we use? I've got 3 different purples, I believe. Let's go with that purple. And then I've also got some metallic ones as well, which is quite fun. So if you have any metallic pens, they will work. So maybe we'll go with a bronze, and then we'll finish off with I can't decide. Maybe like a green. That would work quite nicely. So you want like maybe 4 or 5 colours. I feel like I want a warm colour as well though. Maybe I'll stick an orange in there. And we'll move those to one side. Okay, let's get started. I need to spend less time pairing up colours, don't I? And just crack on. So we're going to start with our leaves, as I said before. The reason we're going to start with the leaves is because we want to make sure it's a nice straight line that sits straight around the middle of this sphere. If we start the pattern at the top, it's very easy to get it uneven, and then what you end up with is your decorations all at a bit of an angle, and it looks a bit weird when it's hanging. So the most important part is the next line that we draw. This is the scariest bit out of everything. So I'm going to choose, let's choose a nice bold colour for you to see. Hopefully this green one will work nicely. So if you are using these Posca pens, keep a piece of paper nearby, because you will find that every so often you need to give them a shake and give them a press just to make sure the pen is working nicely. That's working perfectly. And then what we're going to do is we're going to draw a line all the way around the middle and hope that it joins at the end. I find the easiest way to do this is tip it at 45 degrees so that your string is sitting to the side. And then we're going to start as close to the middle as we can, and then we're going to start drawing. And you're going to try not to move it apart from in one direction. If you tip off to the side, then it's not going to be straight. And you can do it bit by bit. And hopefully when you get to the other side, it will join, and you can start to see, look, there we go. Hopefully you can see that. I hope you've chosen a strong enough colour. Perfect. Can you see that goes all the way around? Lovely. And then what I'll probably do is I'll go over it again just to make it nice and strong. And you'll find this with these Posca pens, if you're using a light colour, you might need to go over twice. But once you've done that first mark, it means this second one can be super quick because you know where you're going and you're just tracing over it. Lovely. So you've got your first line. So now we don't need to worry about a thing. Oh, I see. Well, it's on a massive angle, isn't it? How have I managed that? Let's try another one. Let's go with this green one. I want to make sure it's nice and central. And if, like me, you've just gone completely wrong and not gone right round the middle, then, again, the joy of this is that you can paint over it. So let's just make sure we're still sitting around the middle while we go around this one, because we want to make sure we don't go at an angle like I just did then. Yeah, that's looking quite straight, I think. This is the hardest line, getting this bit right. Are we still sitting around the centre? Yeah. I think I was going a bit too quick there, wasn't I? And then we can join this bit up here. There we go. That's better. That now sits around the centre of the bauble. And then all we're going to do is we're going to start with our leaves. So this should be really easy because we've done this before. We're going to do those nice little leaves either side. And we can go back round and colour them in. Super easy like that. And you don't have to colour them in if you quite like the outline of them. That's also fine. Now I'm doing this super quickly so that you can see a finished product, but you can really take your time on these. Oh, goodness me. So they're fairly smooth, but just watch out because it is a mache bauble. There are some like bits of paper in there, so it can be quite lumpy, but fairly easy. There we go. So we've got a lovely set of leaves around there. Lovely jubbly. And I think I would probably colour those in purely because I'd then put a dot on each leaf in a different colour. So now I'm going to choose another colour. Let's see, let's change it up now. We've got the green one. Let's go with a pink. So again, we're going to check, make sure it's working okay. And now essentially all we're doing is working from middle to bottom and then middle to top. So the next thing I might do, let's go with a swirl. I think we'll go with a swirl. This is trying to do this at the right angle. It's quite tricky. Okay, so I'm going to do a nice swirl. Hopefully you can see that it's nice and bright. There we go. The other thing to watch out for is smudging. Now, I don't know if you would get the smudge if you're right-handed. I think you would because you've still got to rest your hand on the bauble. So you just keep in mind where this bit of your hand is as you're doing it. There we go. So now we've got a swirl joined up. Lovely. And again, I'd probably go over these another go, but you could do the whole thing and then you could go ahead and go over it with all the colours again. So let's do a bright yellow now. And now I think we'll do a line, just a nice straight line. Make sure my yellow's working okay. And because we've got that reference point, we know which patterns we can do. And also at this point, now we've got a bit further down the bauble, it's easier to look at because you can look at it from this point of view and you can start to make sure that you're nice and symmetrical. We've not had any dots yet. Should we do some dots? Let's do this bronze one. And I keep forgetting to like lean over so that you can actually see what I'm doing. Okay, so we're doing some lovely dots around the edge here in this bronze. Hopefully you can see them. Really hard to gauge the light in this room because I'm sat right next to a window and it kind of depends what the weather's doing. And it will sometimes brighten up and then get dark again. Okay, there we go. We've put some dots there. And then we'll do some, let's see what colour. So I've got purple, pink, yellow and bronze. We want one more colour. I'm going to use different colours to what I've chosen because I've gone for the green. Let's go with a red. Let's go with a nice red. So what haven't we done? We haven't done stars. We haven't done zigzags. I think we'll go with this. Let's go with let's do the little arrows actually. Let's do the little arrows. And they're going to go around like this. And you're going to have to repeat these patterns on this bauble. It's not like you're only going to get one shot. So I would probably sort of repeat them, but so they're further away. So I'm not going to repeat the leaves again. The leaves sit in the middle and then that's it. But I think I will repeat the other patterns, but sort of so they're not next to each other. So for example, the next arrows might sit further up here. So we don't see them again, if that makes sense. What else have we got? Stars and ooh, I can't decide. It's so difficult. I'll maybe do some stars next, and we're going to go in with the purple again. And I'm going to make these quite small. I don't want them to take up too much room. And actually, I'm only doing 3 lines because I don't think they need the 4. And what I didn't show you, which pattern I didn't show you, is the swirl that I will do at the end, because I think it's the best way of finishing it off. So I'm going to get let's go with the yellow, and I'm going to do a swirl right at the bottom just to finish that off. But I didn't put that on the reference sheet because it's not a sort of linear shape, if that makes sense. So there we go, got a nice swirl at the bottom. So now we can work our way from the middle to the top, and we're going to go straight in with, I think maybe the red. It feels like the red needs to go next, and I think I might do a zigzag. Let's do a zigzag. I'm trying to figure out the best way of holding it so that I don't rub any of it off. That's the hardest bit about decorating baubles. It's like decorating a cake. Sort of need one of those spinners, but I don't think that exists for baubles, believe it or not, because they just spin themselves anyway, don't they? So we're going to go all the way around like so. And now you've got a reference point like underneath. You know that you're going to join it up at the end. And then maybe let's go with a nice bronze line next. You see I'm sort of drawing as I'm turning, just sticking close to the pattern that I did before so that I know that will join. And because this is a bronze one and it's not very pigmented, I'm going to go over this again just so it's a bit stronger. Okay, that's looking good. Very nice. Okay, so now we want, what colour haven't we done? Maybe a yellow next. And I think we're going to do some of those little arrows we did before. We're getting there, aren't we? We're getting close. And as you've probably noticed, I'm just deciding what pattern to do as and when I go. You can pick an order if you want. If there's an order you like, you can practice those with your pen first. There you go. There's your little arrows. And then I think we'll maybe go with another set of dots, maybe. Pink. Let's go with pink. Looking all right there. So I'll just do some little dots, I think. They're super quick. And you can kind of start to see now why it's good to have a selection of like bigger patterns and smaller patterns, because it just breaks up the amount of pen you're using, and those sort of details just make it look great. Okay, so there's your dots. Lovely, it's looking good. I do want to colour those leaves in, I have to say. They're calling to me. And then maybe, oh, maybe another swirl. So let's use the purple next. Lovely. There we go, that's looking good. And then I think we'll do one more, maybe like a line, and then we'll finish again with the swirl. So what do we want next? The red, let's go with the red. I'm just going all the way around. It's ever so slightly not central, so I'm going to try and rectify that. That's the great thing. If you get to the top and the bottom and it's slightly off, then you can rectify that with your swirl, because your swirl will just go up to whatever line you need it to. Spiral rather than swirl, I should say. So then we can go in with our, let's do bronze. And I will start at the point of the string. Again, you might find it easier to hold the string up with your index finger, and then you can work your way round. And it's all about moving it to fit where your pen's going. I'm going to make that bit bigger so that it sits at the end like that. Lovely. Okay, so we've basically got our decorated bauble there, but I am very quickly going to show you. I'm going to colour these leaves in because I think it will make it, because then we can dot the ends of the leaves with like the bronze, which looks quite nice. And I'm just being careful, but that top bit's going to be dry, so I need to make sure that I'm holding the bits that aren't still wet. And this bit's really easy because you're just colouring in. I won't colour the whole thing in because you can kind of see it from this point. So there you have your decorated bauble. I wonder if I move this slightly so this is kind of framing it for you. I turn this over. Oh no, it's gone all the way through. Maybe not. But there you can see you've got all these patterns here. Well, actually, I didn't use the hearts in the end, did I? But you're using most of the patterns. And I think that's quite effective. And you can do that with any colour and any shape. Beautiful. So there's one finished bauble. But what I'm going to do now is very quickly show you another option. So as I was saying before, if you don't have access to your chalk pens or your Posca pens, move these Posca pens to one side. You could, if you so wish, just use like a normal marker pen. So this black Sharpie is what I was using earlier on the paper. So I'm just going to go in and basically do the same thing, but just using black. And if you're thinking, oh, that might be quite boring because I'm just using one colour. Well, I figured maybe, again, just to sort of make things a bit more affordable, if we used to use a nice light colour on the bauble and then one solid colour for your patterns, then we could add some glitter to it. So I'm going to go ahead and try the black marker pen. And also the other great thing about this is a lot of people now use colour schemes for their Christmas decorations. So people will use like just one or two colours. So you could match it for that. So you could do, you know, if someone does like lots of blues, then you could make sure that you're only using blues. And that way, you know that you can make the marker pen one work. So let's see if I can actually do a nice straight line around the middle. I'm a bit worried about this now because I mucked the first one up. So let's see if I can make this nice and straight. Ooh, it's very scary. So we're doing exactly the same thing. Just make sure that that's... The other thing as well about this is these hang slightly oddly sometimes. So you have to really... This is the hardest bit, I think. It's just making sure that it's going to hang, because that has slightly gone off as well. But as long as they join, that's the main thing, I think. So this Sharpie is working really nicely on this. Because we've used an acrylic, a Sharpie marker pen works quite well. So we're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to do our lines and our leaves. And already I'm thinking I probably shouldn't colour these in, should I? So that I can get on with the actual pattern for you. What I would say is, because you're drawing over paint, you might find that these marker pens will sort of act as if they've run out a bit. It's because they're gliding over something that's you know, probably still not quite dry, I guess. That might be what's going on. So what you might find is that you just have to colour it in on a bit of paper just to get any excess paint off the nib, because that can sometimes happen. But again, we're doing the same thing, but this time we don't need to worry about choosing colours because we're going to go with black the whole way. Just see how that's looking. Yeah, it's looking good. Just going to spin it round. So it's gone up a little bit here, but we can rectify that by either making the leaves slightly smaller, or we can make sure that all the other lines sort of fit nicely above and below it. Oh, okay, so we've got our leaves running around there, and then we can go ahead and do the same thing. Now we've got those two coloured in, but then I got too excited, and then I'll colour them in afterwards. So we're going to do all the patterns first, and then if I have time I can colour the leaves in. So I'm going to go with a line next. I'm going to go all the way around. Nice, and that's nice and central. And now I'm going to do a zigzag. Also, this should be a bit easier in terms of like where your hands go, because these Sharpies will dry quicker than Posca pens will. So you're probably less likely to accidentally rub your hands and ruin all the lovely work that you've done. So now I'm going to go with dots. And you're staying nice and close to the pattern that you've done before you. Lovely. And then maybe we'll go with, oh, what should we do? Let's go with a swirl. I'm going to hold it upright for this, actually. You see the pen's dragging slightly. Just needs to, it won't be that it's run out. It will just needs a little scribble on some paper. Okay, looking good. And then we'll do the little arrows next, I think. And that can probably just about be the last one before we do the swirl. But what I was thinking is that we could dip this bottom bit in glitter. So you have a nice circular bit of glitter at the bottom, and maybe a nice circular bit of glitter at the top as well. That's kind of where I was going. Oh, now I think that there's a nice gap between here. This is what you'll notice, is like how gappy your things are. So you can always go in and add some more. So like here, for example, I think I'm going to add some more dots in to fill the space. So there's no pressure really. If you sort of feel like you've gone wrong, you won't have gone wrong at all. It just might be that you'll find a gap and you can fill it with whichever pattern you so wish. And this actually makes the leaf situation a bit better because you've filled those gaps and keeps it nice and straight. Lovely. Okay, so down here, what have we got? Let's do some little circles. I think that will be our last one. And then after that, I'm going to leave it. So I'm not going to do a spiral because I think I'm just going to do a circle of glitter just to add a bit of splash of colour to it. Okay, so now we can go top ways. I think we'll start now with a swirl. And I think because these patterns are quite small as well, doesn't matter if you go over any bumpy bits and it sort of goes a bit wrong, you'll never notice because it's so full of detail and pattern. Lovely. Very good. There you go. And then we'll do, I think we'll do a couple of lines now. Now we're getting on there. Okay. All the way around. Making sure they join at the end. Like that. Looking good. And then what else? Some little arrows again. I must be concentrating because I'm quite quiet. What I would say is if you do, I made so many of these last year, and my eyes did start to go a bit. And I think one of the key things really is to make sure you're doing it in a nice bright room. I think I was probably trying to do loads of these in the evening when all the lights were low, and made me go cross-eyed. So just be wary of that if you do get into this and you start doing loads and loads. Let's do some dots again. Dots are super easy. Hopefully you'll agree that even though we've only used the one colour, it still looks great. It's not taken away from the pattern at all. So your options there. It's looking good. What else have we got? Oh, let's do some hearts. We haven't done hearts yet. All the way around. And then I think I might just do one more after this, and then we'll put some glitter on it and make it nice and festive. Not Christmas without some glitter, is it? Not for me anyway. I use a lot of glitter at Christmas. Okay, so then we've got the hearts, and actually I think I think that's enough space to do your, yeah. And the only thing I would say is, again, we've got a bit of a gap here, so we might do the dots again. I think the dots are always good if you think you want to fill gaps, and it just fills space. If you feel like you've gone a bit off center, then a dot you can fit into a tiny space and a big space, and it just sort of like covers up your tracks a little bit, makes things look straighter if they were a bit wonky before. Very good. Now what I would say at this point, if you are using glitter, is you could, if you so wished, be really dainty with this. If you want to be really clever, you could maybe paint the leaves and just add a bit of glitter in there, or if you have any like sticky gems, you could stick them in the middle of the leaves. But I think for now we're just going to chuck a load of glitter on the bottom and the top just to add a bit of colour. But that's looking good. So it does actually work really nicely if you're just doing the one colour and a lighter paint, so you don't want to use or buy the Posca pens. But I'll just refer back to this one just so you can see it. It's looking very pretty. And all we've done is these super simple patterns all the way along. So let me just put that over there. It's probably going to roll away. Oh, okay, that's fine. And we're going to get ourselves some bog standard PVA glue. Doesn't need to be fancy. This is from the Works. It was £2.50 and it's lasted me ages. I don't think I'm ever going to run out of PVA glue. I'm just going to pour a little bit on my paint palette here. I'm going to paint this on with a paintbrush. This paint palette, by the way, is just a bowl with some cling film on it. You don't need to buy a fancy paint palette. Not a chance. And then we're going to get ourselves a paintbrush. Oh, in fact, let me tell you about the glitter first, so I can actually put some glitter on. Again, glitter, varying different prices. This one was from Hobbycraft, but I recommend you get your glitter from the range because it's really cheap. You can buy massive pots of it for like £2.50. The range is the best for glitter, I think, 100%. So I'm just going to paint just this middle bit here, and I'm going to try and make the circle as neat as possible so that it fits with the pattern. Although this paintbrush is all over the place, isn't it? This was not the best paintbrush to choose. I think this paintbrush might have last been used by one of my small children. That's my guess. Although I find that when it's the washing of the brush that makes it dry nicely. I don't know if you guys find that. But if I wash the brush and then dry it with a tea towel and dry it really straight, then it tends to dry nicely. Okay, so now we're going in with the glitter, and I'm just going to shake, shake, shake till it's covering the area. Lovely. I think that's enough. Maybe just a tiny bit on that side. Yeah, that's good. And then, I mean, I'm not going to brush it away yet because I don't want to ruin the glue, but I am just going to turn it over. So good job I've got this lovely white piece of paper underneath it to catch all the glitter. And then we'll do the same with the top bit. I'm going to create a circle around. This is going to be a bit trickier because we've got the string here. So we're sort of doing it around the string, and we want it to cover this whole area. So we have to go in between where the string is as well. Make those edges nice and straight as if we were painting it, because then the glitter will have a nice sharp edge. And then we go straight in with that. And happen to be nice and fiddly with that string coming off the bauble, which is the bit that gets in the way. That's a nice. So can you see that glitter has a really sharp edge because I've really spent time on making sure the edge of the glue was nice and straight and sharp. And then, I mean, I don't want to blow the glitter away, but I kind of feel like, so that you can see the finished effect, I'm going to try my best to sort of brush the glitter away without ruining the lovely bit at the top, so that we can see what it will look like at the end. I've got very glittery fingers now. I'm going to do the same for this bit here at the bottom. There we go. I think that's looking fabulous. Look at that. Got a lovely glittery bit, so that'll glimmer on the Christmas tree nicely. And you've got that bit at the top. Now, as I've said, you could always add glitter to the leafy bit, or alternatively, you could skip a couple of patterns and do a stripe of glitter so that you have like a sort of a bit of glitter in between. That would be quite nice. But I think that looks pretty good. And then here's our lovely, in fact, what I'll do before I go, just so you've seen it, let's hang this up here actually. Don't want you to roll away. So I'm just going to show you this very quickly. I coloured in some of the leaves. I've left the other half open, but just so you can see why. So that at the end, where's my bronze? Got my bronze pen. So all I would do right at the end of all the patterns is I would just go in and dot these. And I always like to do these with a metallic colour because then they just shine a little bit nice and shimmery. I'm only going to do the ones that I've coloured in. Hopefully you can see the shine of those dots on there. I think that looks pretty lovely. And so the joy of this is choosing your contrasting colours to go against whatever colour you've chosen. The other option, I've done this before, is you could paint your bauble black, and then you could use rainbow colours going up. So you can kind of go red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, purple. That's quite fun. But yes, as I've said, the options are there if you don't want to use Posca pens. So just get yourself a nice black marker pen and then do it on a really light colour, and then add some glitter at the end if you so wish. And that's it. That's your lot. We've decorated some baubles. You could do as many colours as you want. They also, by the way, make the most fabulous gift tags. If you have the time to decorate loads of these, then you can just add these to your Christmas presents when you put a ribbon around it and then add this to it. what a dream. They can put it straight up on the tree. It's like a little extra gift. So don't forget to make yourself a super quick, super easy reference point for your patterns. Make sure you start with your leaves in the middle, work your way from bottom to top, top to bottom, and try to make your leaf line as straight as possible going around the centre. I don't think it matters too much if it's off kilt. In fact, I don't think anyone would notice, but that's it. That's how you decorate some beautiful baubles quite easily with not too many materials. I hope you all have a go. And if you do, please show us, please send us some pictures. I want to see them all sparkling on the Christmas tree. Very excited. Not got my tree up yet. Maybe next week. But I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much for coming. And I will be doing one more session before Christmas, which will also be festive. I'll make it as festive as possible. If you have any ideas of what you want to do, please let me know. And I hope you have a lovely day. My name's Rosie. My business is Rosie and Ramona, and we make stuff like this all the time. I hope you've had a great time, and I will see you soon. Goodbye.